Oh my God, Morgan,
What's up?
what's up?
It's just a chill Sunday with
Yep,
my dog laying here, and I'm really happy to see you and be
I'm
here.
happy to see you too. We just talked about this, but I've talked about this before when I've had guests on, but like I was seeing you, but now I'm looking into my camera, so it looks to you like I'm looking at you and not ignoring you. But if I
I know.
actually wanted to look at you, I'd have to look down here, and
I
then it
f-
looks like I'm not looking at you.
I feel like I've perfected the art of like absolutely like here's me looking at the camera, but like really it's this, but it's like I perfected like looking at the camera and being like, "Oh my God, absolutely." Because the alternative is that you're just looking down at something and you're like, "Totally." And anyways.
Yeah, it's like when people do TV interviews and like one of them's in like, Baltimore and one of them is in like New York and they're like, "It's great to see you," but they're just looking at a camera and they have like
Absolutely.
they have an earpiece in and they're not actually
Yeah.
seeing each other.
Where are you from, or where do you live, or do you
I'm
live?
from Utah and I live in Los Angeles.
Okay, heard of them, both
What
of them.
about you? Where are you from?
Well, I am from Nashville, Tennessee, and as of 1 year ago, I'm living back in Nashville, Tennessee. I
You're
wasn't
from Nashville. You're from the music town.
they say that I'm a unicorn, which I happily accept.
And what is that? I mean, like, meaning what in Nashville? That just that, like, because you don't sing
Pe
country music, or just because you're like a person in the music industry who's actually from Nashville?
So I'll take both, but I think what it actually means is that I'm somebody from Nashville who lives in Nashville, because a lot of the people,
Hmm.
especially in music in Nashville, are people who like came here in pursuit of the music, and I just grew up here.
Yeah.
I didn't have family in the music industry, so it wasn't like something like I was aware that Nashville had this like music town. For me, to be honest, the minute I turned 18, it was either I'm going to die or I'm going to leave home and go figure out who I am and where I have to go. Do you know what I mean?
What was that about? Can you go into that?
Yeah. I mean, growing up in the South, being like, I don't think I even knew the words gay, anything like that. Like, it was just like, I mean, I didn't know about it until people made fun of me for it, which is an
Mhm.
interesting thing. Like bullying, you sort of have kids that will call you things that you might not even be aware of in yourself, like calling you, I don't want to say it for,
F
trigger
slur.
F slur, sissy, F slur. My dog's about
Hmm.
to drink water.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentle thems.
Yeah.
Can you hear it?
I can hear the dog drinking water. Yeah.
So good. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was just like, there was a point where I was so scared to be myself in this town, and this town was never going to allow me the room to be myself. So I had to leave home to go find that. I had to leave home to give myself permission to try things, to create things, and then most importantly, I had to give myself room to like learn to accept myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, Nashville proper, like that city, because is Nashville kind of a blue dot in the middle of a red state, or is Nashville also pretty conservative?
No, Nashville is a blue dot in a red state. That is a very true like picture of Nashville.
Yeah.
Um, but it was like it was still the South. I actually had
Yeah.
a manager 10 years ago. I was like either going to move to LA or to Nashville,
Mhm.
and I 10 years ago, this is, not that far back, but 10 years ago, this manager was like, you will never make it in music as an openly gay person in Nashville, period. And full disclosure, that manager himself was a gay man, but there was still this like stigma around this town that even though it's a blue dot in a red state, you're still dealing with a town that is deeply in the South, and the predominant genre being country. It was like, you're not going to touch that if you're going to be who you are. So, that all leads to I had to leave home to find, you know, the sort of like support and strength really within myself, which is like that really brings me back to like obviously I have a big song called Home, and that journey feels important to leaving home to find out all this stuff. But as much as it's about leaving, my journey coming back here has been so crazy.
I watched that music video recently, and it's really powerful. It's like that the imagery of the kid leaving home where he lives to find family and home amongst the community where he is like discovering his identity.
Yeah.
And that's a really it's like it's really simple and succinct, but that's such a story for so many people in the queer community, is like leaving the nest of where I was raised to find my people, because where I am, I don't feel like I can be myself. In the current zeitgeist and nomenclature, it feels like there's a lot of talk about how just like, oh, it's everywhere nowadays. Like the cool thing is to be gay, the cool thing is to be trans, the cool thing is to be non-binary. Like it's in every TV show, it's in every movie, and people act like it's just like this, it's like overwhelming the culture, and like it's just you can't swing a stick without like finding somebody who's identifying in some kind of way. And what I think is so short-sighted is people don't realize that it's like this is still like we're just at the very beginning of like queer people being able to be more regularly represented at different levels of entertainment. Like it's just still so new, even in the 2020s,
Yeah.
that we're
I'm
like finally getting to this place.
sometimes sometimes I even will be like, it's I'll be like, it's too saturated. It's too much. Pride is like too much. And then I
Mhm.
will receive a message from like somebody's mother who's got a kid who's struggling. I mean, I'll cry, but I sang at my old high school last week, and a mother came up to me and was like, "My son, who's 17, is you,"
Mm.
and what do I say, and I was like, just give him or them, or give them the room to be themselves and know that they have a safe space in you, a mother, because the truth is, yes, it's zeitgeist, and yes, you see it a lot, but for every story you see of like, loud, proud looking commercial, all that stuff, you've also got kids who are scared because their parents are going to hurt them if they come out. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I mean, my boyfriend, his, grew up in a fundamentalist Christian community, and that is like not something that allows for people to A, not be in the church, or B, to be queer. Do you know what I mean? And
Yes.
and then the other part is that we're talking about something, gay marriage is what, 2015 it became legal? Like we're literally talking about 7 years ago.
Yep.
And we're talking about, I'm one to speak about it, but
Yeah.
in the world of the Roe v. Wade's, we're talking about something that
Yep.
within the last month, you've seen a Supreme Court justice be like, so that thing about gay marriage or gay relationships, that's on the chopping block. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Like,
we're having the debate again, like
yeah,
fully. We are back into the debate. You go on Twitter, and like conservative Twitter and conservative internet right now is like they're back to making their same old tired arguments that we've already had, that we're like, I thought we already had this argument and we already decided that you have a terrible position. Like we've already like established that you don't have a leg to stand on in this debate. It's
yeah,
all just like the Bible says so, which like it kind of doesn't at all. And also like, and that's kind of it, like that's all you really have. And then you go to stuff like, oh well, this isn't like the traditional family model. Studies show that children do best in the nuclear family home of like a man and a woman. It's like, yeah, those are studies based on a time when there wasn't such thing as like gay families, so we didn't really have anything to compare it to. And like all of these arguments have been thoroughly debunked. We already did this
yeah,
close to 10 years ago, and we're back to doing it. But it's also like we already did it in the 70s. We already
yeah.
did it. Like we keep doing it. So anytime it's like it looks like progress has been made, it's just like, no, just wait a second. We'll be right back to having this conversation again in just a couple of years. That's why I'm like, yeah, it may look like you're seeing this stuff everywhere, but we are still in the middle of the
Yeah.
fight.
Not and not to sound, I mean, I've stopped trying to pretend I'm not an elder millennial or whatever. I forget what I'm actually classified as, but like, not to sound like that literal person,
Yeah.
but it's like I didn't have that was so southern. I didn't have
Back in my day.
back in my day. I had to walk uphill both ways. I didn't have TikTok. I didn't have the internet to give me the sort of like, I'm not alone in this frustration and in this fight and in this feeling. And, for everything that I'm sure you know more than me, that's annoying about the internet and social media and all that stuff. Because I sometimes just have to like quit and literally go be like a desert fairy and just
Mhm.
pretend I don't exist in time. But for everything that's hard about it, there's also so many uh, beautiful moments of seeing that you're not alone in this fight. That yes, we as society have been here before, but there are new tools, and you know that feels empowering and exciting to me.
Yes, and I wanna talk more about that later on as we get into sort of the ride of your career, but while we're in this area, it reminds me a little bit of, like, when Barack Obama was elected and people wanted to go like, "Okay, cool. Can we put the racism discussion to bed? Can we just say, like, we're done, that racism has been fixed and we don't need to talk about it anymore?" And it's like, "Yeah, okay, we can if you guys stop being racist." But then they, like, kept being racist and, like, we kept having to, like, have the conversation and they're like, "Well, didn't we did it. We elected a black guy." And it's like, "Cool, yeah, we elected one black person to president in the history of the country, and we continue to see police brutality and like an inordinate amount of violence in communities of color, and we continue to see marginalization of people of color." So like,
Yeah,
sure, we had that progressive step forward. That does not mean we solved the problem. So like, yes, we are seeing increased representation of marginalized identities in the queer community. That does not mean we are out of the woods on on like homophobia, transphobia, uh, and
very much.
yeah, and
Very well said. I mean, the ricochet that is caused by a unhealed, nation, like pretending that like one person, of color elected is sort of a symbol that we've arrived. It is just the beginning. And because there are so many people that are angry and hurt and not willing to look at it and think that like that's it, or got so mad at that's how we ended up in the mess that we're in. And that's that is the depth of politics, because it gets me so angry to tour the country, you know um and know that the thing is like, I have a platform where I receive hate all the time, and sometimes I make cute little TikToks about it, and I can do that because I was that kid that was bullied. Do you know what I mean? But
mhm.
I didn't have like a platform to go then be like, "Hey, this is happening. You're not alone in that feeling." And also, these things can roll off me and fall off. Because I see them at my shows. I see people come up to me that are so hurt by and scared by being themselves in a world that like will throw actual sticks and stones.
Yes. Yep. Well, I think that it's good for Nashville to have people like you. Not that I don't want you to come back to LA and hang out with me and like be in LA again, but I think it's good for Nashville. They need you, Morgan.
Yeah,
They
I
need you
appreciate
there.
that. There's something brave about being back in the South, and I'm not just calling myself brave. Like humble, I'm humbly saying that there's something harder and deeper and scarier about being myself in a place that is the South. And it's why like I want more people to sort of like go into these communities that, you know, if they can, to just to bring new voices to these places. Like there will be a first openly gay mayor running for mayor in Nashville this fall. And I'm so excited to be here at a time where I get to see that change and be a part of that change.
Yeah, I mean, I'm originally from Salt Lake City, and like that was always part of the tug of war of whether to like leave to New York or LA. You know, go to one of the coastal cities to try to have more exposure to opportunity in the entertainment industry. But then there's also this thing of like, yeah, but Salt Lake always loses. It's and towns like Salt Lake always lose their best artists to like the coastal cities and stuff. And these towns need these people to stay too, and they need these people to like continue challenging the local culture and art there. It's like you can really be controversial there. Like you can really like you put on like a production of Angels in America and it's like a thing there. It's like a big statement in the community. Whereas if you do
Yeah.
it in LA or New York, everyone's like, yeah, we've seen that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
uh,
mean, when you tour the country and you're obviously playing shows, marquee shows in New York and LA and Nashville and Chicago and whatever, um, you start to you could ask any person. I honestly ask every musician that's on your show, but I don't think anyone is going to say that New York and LA are their favorite shows because
yeah.
it's like it's just a bunch of like industry people being like this in the back and then fans in the front or whatever. Now
Yeah.
Mhm. Salt Lake City goes off.
Yeah.
Off every time.
Yeah.
And the first time that I played there, I was, I'm like, what is a gay Jewish boy from Nashville gonna like encounter in Salt Lake City? And it was just wild. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was just like electric. And I'm not a I, I don't know why that is, but I would say that it's like there are real people in every city. Do you know what I mean? Who
Hmm.
are aching for experience. And every time I go to Salt Lake City, I'm blown away at how incredible the people are because you don't have to be in New York or LA to be incredible.
I'm always like very proud of Salt Lake's pride. Like I like carry that with me to like LA and New York. I'm like, just so you know, the town I'm from has one of the biggest pride celebrations outside of the coastal cities. Like, so
Yeah.
just so you know.
I played Love Loud with Dan from Imagine Dragons.
Uh-huh.
I played that this year. In a place like Salt Lake City, like pride becomes even more vital because it's just like, we want you to know you're not alone. I could cry all
Yeah.
day, but it's like we want you to know you're not alone, and like we want you to see that boldly that you're not alone, which brings tears to my eyes.
It's survival. There are people in Salt Lake who and I'm sure it's the same way in the South too, where you're from. There are people who have really fought for their life and really fought for their like their right to live and had to many people who were, pushed out of their families, pushed out of their communities, pushed out of their like their homes, and they had to, like you said, either die or thrive, like make a choice at a young age
Thrive.
to to embrace life. And so when you encounter those people and they are going off like that, it's like they're like screaming to the heavens, like, I made it, I did
Yeah,
it, and I had to fight for my to be here.
I know. I know this is
Really
your show,
cool.
but I'm like, where did you live in New York and LA?
Yeah, I
Is that
did.
your journey? Okay.
Yeah, I moved from Salt Lake to New York in 2015. I always thought I wanted to live in New York, and it just wasn't my town, and I never thought LA was gonna be, and then I moved out here, I was like, "Oh, wait, shit, I like it here so much more."
Yeah, you mean you can do things and the weather's nice? Like, that sounds
Yeah,
really nice.
yeah,
Um, I did
yep.
I did Chicago, New York, LA, back to Nashville. So Nashville to Chicago to New York to LA, back
What
to
was your
Nashville.
favorite?
Oh, well, I've got songs about all of them, but uh, like, honest take, like, Chicago is fine, don't need to live there. Don't need to live there. Um, New York still feels like an ex-lover that I have, like, a ton of baggage with
Uh-huh,
that I'll just, like, never really sort. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? And
uh-huh.
then LA might be, like, the love of my life. Do you know what I mean? Um, and I'll always know that love is possible.
Uh-huh.
But Nashville is sort of like Nashville's where it's like a volcano here for me. There's just like there's a ton of fire and I wanted to come to a place. I needed to work some stuff out. I needed to give myself space, but that's like we're getting beyond the beginning of my journey.
I can't even tell you how much I just related to what you just said because I never lived in Chicago, but Chicago is one of those towns where like just visiting it the few times I did, I was like, I can't believe that like of the towns where people move to like try to make waves in the entertainment industry. I can't believe that this is like somebody's first choice. I can't like no. I
The
mean, I was gonna say no shade, but like
full
full
shade.
shade to
That's
Chicago. Like
yeah.
it's so uncomfortable there from the weather. Like I just am like, it's too cold, you guys. It's too
Yeah.
cold.
I went to college there, and they had us. We used to tape flyers to the ground during winter,
Uh-huh.
because basically when people are walking around in winter, they just have their hood over their head, and there's no point in pasting signs on the walls because no one's looking up. So
Yeah.
you would tape flyers to the ground with like protective tape, so it like stayed there because people are just walking around like looking at the ground all day.
People are
Like
just miserably with the hood just pulled tight, hunched over,
I
walking
know.
as fast as they can, arms crossed in front of them, going, fuck, fuck, fuck.
I look forward to being canceled for like for the shade of Chicago, but I and to those who choose it, like literally, God bless. But like,
Uh-huh.
it's nice. I'm a wanderer. Like, there's a version of wonder where I thought it was maybe going to be like, I wonder, I wander, I wonder.
Mm.
But I'm such a traveler. Like that's my spirit. And of all the places I go, I have more connection to more places than not. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
there will be like, I could give you a story about Salt Lake City that made me be like, wow, I could be here.
yeah.
Denver, Seattle. There's like
Mhm.
that's just the United States, then we can't even talk about the world.
Right.
There's so many places I want to go. It's a wonderful feeling when you go to a city like Chicago and you're just like, I'm cool. I'm no thanks.
Yeah, I'm good. And
Yeah.
I mean, and then the way you described New York, like this, because it's like I wanted to love New York more than anything. Like that was the town that I was going to live in when I was growing up, and I would go visit New York. I was like, this is where I'm going to live. This is where artists live. This is where like hardened, cool artists are at work, And it just was like such a toxic relationship that I fought for so hard, and like leaving it in my wake, it's like this thing where I do have fond memories of it, and when I go back and visit, I like will have days in the city where I'm like, yeah, see, this place there's nowhere like this place. There's nowhere like the energy of this place. There's nowhere with this architecture and this hum and this, this energy. But then all this, like something will happen where I'll be like, yep, that's why. That's
Yeah.
why. Cause fuck this place. Cause
Did you ever like stand on a street corner in New York City while looking for apartments and just start crying uncontrollably? Because I have in the pouring rain, you
yeah,
know.
if there's like New York City bingo of like things that you have to experience to be a New Yorker. And one of them is
Give me
having
f-
like a
give me five. Give me five.
public meltdown is definitely one of them.
Okay.
And
Seeing somebody shit themselves
yep,
on public
yes,
transport.
yep.
Okay.
Seeing somebody shit themselves. So I just went there in April with my nieces and nephews and my mom and dad. And I kept telling my nieces and nephews whenever we would see something, I'd go, that's New York City bingo. I'd get, like, so good for you guys. Like you're only here for a week. And like that's one of them. I was like, so like seeing someone shit themselves. The other one is like being on a train with a person who is very scarily unhinged, who's like
Yes.
threatening everyone in the train car, telling everyone in the train car that they're going to kill them. And you have to like if you're with tourists, you have to be like, it's okay. I don't think he's going to kill us. Like he
Yeah.
keeps saying he's going to kill us, but like he's not aware that we're here.
Yeah.
He,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like
And
he's,
then another sweet bingo moment is to see somebody playing music in a subway that breaks your heart and like
yep.
tears your soul open and is the best sonic sound you've ever heard in your
Yep.
entire life.
And you're just like,
Um,
cool that you got this gig and that like people are stopping by and watching you, but also so heartbreaking that this is where you are and that like this might be it, is like getting to play in the subway and it's the most amazing music you've ever heard.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
I always try to film those because, you know, just sharing it.
mhm.
I'm walking through the airport and I see someone sing and if they move me, I'm always one to like take a video, post it to my story because
Yep.
oh boy, do I know what it's like to wonder if anyone will hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other one that they got to experience was just like train traffic. We got delayed on a train for an hour and a half underground because there was switching problems, they kept saying, up ahead.
Yeah.
But they were just like, "What are we do?" We were just stuck in a tunnel underground for an hour and a half, and I was like, "Yes, this is." It's like, so when people complain about the traffic in LA, I always try to remind them that, like, you could be in a tube underground with a bunch of other people with no cell service and you don't know how long. Like, there's not like,
Yeah.
you can't like see ahead and be like, "Oh, it clears up here." You're just in there, and
Yeah.
you don't know when it's gonna be done.
Yeah. For some reason, that's all hitting me with, like, such a sweet nostalgia. It's
Yeah.
funny. It's funny how something this is healing, but something from your past that's, like, traumatic or that feels like that's awful can somehow on a Sunday afternoon, you can hear it and be like, "Wow, how sweet to be stuck in a subway." I
There
love that memory.
there's something like I think the way you described it, like this kind of like jilted lover, that there's always something there. There's something super romantic about that town, and there's something super romantic about like spending a week in that town and like and walking around in different neighborhoods. And there
Yeah.
is this sort of like, you can't help but be attracted to it. But it also is like very abusive and like just sort of shows you constantly that it doesn't really give a shit about you.
Yeah.
And
I have this crazy moment. I've said this in an interview once, and I'm gonna I'm gonna then say something else after I say the story because it's gonna sound like name dropping, and it literally is. But
do it.
I moved to LA in 2011 after being in New York. I was on Broadway. I had been doing music and
What'd
really
you do
want.
on Broadway?
I did a show called Spring Awakening,
Oh my
which
god, I didn't know you were in Spring Awakening.
yeah, I was in the original company of it. I came in to replace like after halfway through, right after they won the Tony, and the Grammy. I joined the cast and then finished that show on Broadway.
Amazing.
Crazy experience.
Wow.
We're not even getting to the name drop moment yet.
Mhm.
But basically I knew that like music was always something I wanted to do, and I was sort of like scared and afraid. I was working, my day job was in real estate. I was showing apartments in New York, so I was like, drifting farther and farther from what I wanted to be doing. And eventually I sort of like saved up enough money and was just like, I'm going to quit New York. I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to like pursue music. That's what I've always wanted to do. I'm like
Mhm.
thinking that I didn't know. And that was definitely the time where it was either Nashville or LA, but I went to LA and I ended up at a party. It was Grammy week. Ended up at a party, and this woman that I know from Nashville was at the party, and she is an older woman, so she knows a lot more people. And she was like, "Morgan, do you want to meet Stevie Nicks?" And I was like, "Is that? I mean, yes, please." And she's right here, and it was literally like it was like if this is my microphone, like right here, it was literally like she's right here, and it was like, "Hello."
Hello.
Um, and I think back to that moment because here I am, 2011 Morgan, and I'm at this party. I'm pretty sure Lana Del Rey performed. I don't know how I don't really know how I got there, but I was there. And for some reason, Stevie Nicks like sat with me on this couch for like an hour talking to me about like her life and words of wisdom about LA. And I'm like, why did she talk to me is a question that I have thought of before. And I do think it was because in a room like that where there's so many people trying to get her attention and sort of needing something from her, I
Mhm.
was just like a very gentle presence of a kid, definitely in awe of her, but also not like asking her for an autograph or time or a handout. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
But this is coming right from New York. And she said to me, she was like, now, like, LA will walk right over you if you don't keep moving. And I was like, now that's interesting because New York has the um reputation for being a town that can like, you know, it's always moving, never city that never sleeps, like all that stuff.
Mhm.
New York has that image, but she's saying this about LA. And what she was saying is that in LA, it's so beautiful and, pristine and pretty that sometimes the mirage of the city is that it looks like, um, it looks chill and peaceful. But if you're not moving, if you're not like keeping that fire lit, this city will walk right over you. And, that couldn't have been it couldn't have been better timing. I needed that so much because I had come to LA pretty broke and broken, and that advice, now it was nothing was overnight for me. It was literally, that was 2011, and I signed my first record deal in 2015. So,
Mhm.
that's 4 years later, and in that time I, did anything I could for money, but it was definitely something I came back to that was like, if this town is not going to generate my energy, I'm going to have to generate my own energy, and I'm going to have to be the one that keeps moving. And I kept that fire, you know, definitely past points where it could have burnt out so many times because of what she said.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, there's so many things about that story where, like, one is, in New York, you might bump into a celebrity once in a blue moon because the city's so densely packed that, like, you can bump into people just walking around on the street. But LA is like, oh, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Like, you get invited to a party and you're like, oh, everyone here is like a big celebrity. And then also, it is so easy in this town to get lulled into. I think a lot of people move here with big ideas and big dreams, and then they're just like, actually, it's just kind of nice to live here, and I'm just gonna sort of have like a job and just sort of be here and enjoy the weather. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but like, if you have goals and if you have dreams and like there's a reason why you're here, you do need to have a sense of urgency, and like you are essentially responsible for keeping your motor running.
I had another friend that said New York is a river and LA is a lake, where in New York the sort of current is built into it,
Yeah.
but in LA it's this still body of water. But the minute you start flapping your hands and like making movement, it's like a ripple effect. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's
Uh-huh.
not as built in, you know, as New York is. And I love water references, and I also love, like, I'll never enter the conversation. I'll never enter the chat on New York versus LA. Like, they're literally
Yeah.
like, I'm in a poly relationship with New York and LA, and there's no sense in being like, either one of them are my favorite.
Yeah.
They both break me in different ways, and they also both like turn me on in ways I could never explain.
I love that. That's fantastic. And we are getting into a little bit of your career in the music industry, which is really what I wanted to talk to you about. But it's great to like start off with that background. I also wanted to just like get a sense of like who you are, where you come from, what you're about. Um, but we talked a little bit about how, the pros and cons of social media, that there's definitely times on social media where you're just like, this is the bane of humanity. This is going to be our downfall. This is ruining everything. And then there's times where you're like, this is actually a really beautiful tool for engagement and for connection and for communication. And also in the entertainment industry, it's sort of this really cool tool where like there are opportunities and doors and pathways being opened up for artists that never existed before. We've existed in an industry of gatekeepers, and like finding a way to um appease the gatekeepers and be in the same room with the gatekeepers and meet the people who know them so that they
Yeah.
can introduce us to them, and always needing to know the right people. And suddenly with social media, and we talked a little bit about like GarageBand and Ableton and the tools that are available to people, more and more independent artists are having access to things that they never had access to before. And like my experience with that is like I mean, obviously I have an audience because of social media that I never would have had otherwise. But one of my favorite things that happens on social media to me is like I meet people that I don't know how I would have met that person if they didn't somehow stumble across one of my videos. And I love when I meet someone who I didn't know before, who I'm just kind of like, I don't know who this is. They reach out, they DM, and I'm like, I don't know who this is. And I look them up and I'm like, holy shit, this person's awesome. And that was the case with you. When you
Oh,
reached out, I was like, I don't know who this is, but you were like very nice. You reached out and you were like, hey, I think we like became mutuals. I must have seen one of your videos, and you DM'd and you were very nice. And then I looked you up and I was like, oh my God. I was like, this person's incredible. And then I went on a deep dive on your music videos, on like the stuff that you've been doing. And I was just blown away by
well, thanks.
what an amazing
That's very
like
sweet. I mean,
artist you are.
you are equally a great artist. You are, you know, so good at social media. I just feel like I have no idea what I'm doing on the internet, but I
Nobody does.
appreciate that you thought the music, you know, I sort of come to it like a lowly musician being like, hello internet, like how might I like connect with you today? Do you know what I mean?
Well, we are in an era right now where the
Yeah.
industry wants every musician. I'm actually going to Pop Montreal in September to talk about um musicians marketing themselves on social media and stuff like that. And it really frustrates me, to be honest, that like the the industry wants everyone, no matter what your discipline is, to be good at making engaging social media content. So you could be a painter, you could be a dancer, you could be a choreographer, or a singer-songwriter, but like you also have to be a good content creator. And that's like, that part of it frustrates me, because I'm just like, well, that's not what everyone's thing is. And we shouldn't expect someone who's an amazing singer and songwriter and performer to also be super proficient or even care about making good TikToks. Like those,
Yeah.
you know?
I want to say I echo that. I think, you know, the part that I'm there was a Brian Eno quote, you know, Brian Eno, famous musician who people can look up, but he had this quote about like basically with new mediums and new like formats, the sort of like cringe, like clunky aspects of that medium will become the like the what's the word, like it'll become the signature of that era, you know. So like vinyl and like the sort of like you know, the sound of vinyl, which is now a plugin you can like put on, you know, music, like the sound of vinyl, like sort of like as the vinyl moves across the record, like that sound is signature to a vinyl. With CDs you've got this like distortion that's like signature to CDs.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're moving into TikTok as its own medium, and like some of the, you know, cringe like aspects of it that are deeply cringe to me. Like I cannot convincingly play my song for my boyfriend for the first time in my car. I'll never do it. I could never do it.
Yep.
But
Yep. Yep.
it's you know, it might be signature to the medium, but there are also things that I'm like, I can't do it. I can't be a part of it. But I will say this, because I was dropped by my label in March of 2020, which is, you know, sort of I think where we reconnected this week, because I I have just been like the disillusion that I feel and see with artists being like, how do I use social media? How do I do this? What am I even doing? I don't know. I have no answer, but I do know that I have my story. That's the only story I have. And I'm going to tell that story. So, you know, using social media to be like, in March of 2020, I was dropped by my then record label. So I went from having management and a label to having no management and no label. And the only thing that changed was that I didn't have a label, but I was still me. But that same day, Billie Eilish tweeted that her song Bad Guy had 5 songs that inspired it, and one of them was my song Home. So you can imagine I was having a heartbreak of a personal thing while my phone was literally on fire. Like I've never
This
had
is
more, I mean,
like
I've never had more tweets ever.
this is like what I mean, this is the aspect of the story that I was like, oh my God, that's like, I'm always looking for when because there's always people that I want to talk to on the podcast, but I'm who are doing cool things, but I'm like, what is it that what's going to be the thing that I want to focus on? And it's this specifically. So let's actually go back to 2015. I want to see like what the ride is of like getting signed to, you know, what your life, because what I find so inspiring about the story is how right there in that day of getting dropped and also getting the tweet from Billie Eilish, it's like this happens all the time to people who are trying to make it in the entertainment industry, is like you're simultaneously always carrying failure and disappointment and success. Hopefully sometimes you're just carrying failure and disappointment for months and months or years on end. I know I've been there. And sometimes you have a streak where it feels like you can't miss and like you're just hit after hit after hit. But like there's also these days where you're just like, I don't really know how to feel because like this thing went away that was really important, but this thing happened that presents a whole new opportunity. And
Yeah.
you have to like hold the space for feeling the disappointment while also feeling the excitement. Let's take us through
Yeah.
the
I mean,
journey.
I think the journey sort of like there's many beginning points, but I would say 2014 is when I wrote a song called XX, which is on my first album, Vital. But
Mhm,
it was the first song I wrote, and the lyric is kiss kiss, but I wrote it down the lyrics as XX.
mhm.
And I never changed that. But I remember hearing that song and being like, something has shifted. Like there's just something brand new in this song, and I'm not just going to this was the era of like blogs and stuff like that. I'm not just going to like release it right now. I'm going to like maybe I can get a blog to like share it or something like that. But in the meantime, I had done a cover of Ain't Too Proud to Beg,
Mhm.
the Temptation song, but like in my style, and it started charting on like the blogosphere kind of world or whatever. Tiesto is this electronic DJ. I had a couple songs on his album, like singing on it. And that was just because I wrote these songs that ended up getting passed around, and Tiesto heard them and put them on his album. But this is like I'm unknown in sort of like my own music. It's just like this cover is up and these features are out there. And I had these songs that I was like
And you're independent at this point. Like you're
totally
just
independent.
so again, like this is so cool that you can do this in today's world. Like this didn't used to exist, that you could like put a song out on the internet and somehow it can get to Tiesto and you can be
Yeah.
featured, yeah.
Well, those weren't out on the internet when Tiesto got them. That is part of that's the end of the music industry that's always there, which is
Ah,
you're writing songs and then those songs get passed around to A&Rs and different things or whatever. And
mhm.
that's almost like a luck, lightning in a bottle, right place, right time, right song, right moment. Actually, his A&R had passed on it, and then Tiesto was in the studio with a DJ, and he was working on it, and then Tiesto was like, "I want that." So that's a podcast in itself.
Yeah,
But basically, I was independent, and this was the first time that like music. I remember writing in my journal like, more than my mom has heard my music. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
more than like 10 people have heard my song.
yeah,
And but it was still like I had these songs that I had made, and I'll always go back to make the music. Just make your music like in whatever way you want. Um and I was sort of like I need to figure out what I want to do with it, but I don't want to like put it out right away. It's hard to take this long story and make it short, but I'm going to try to just hit highlights
yeah,
because it basically was like I answered a Craigslist ad to like be on one of those like Judge Judy shows because I was like gonna pay cash, and I was like, I'll take any job
yeah,
for money. Do you know what I mean?
uh-huh.
And
I've been there.
people are like independent, whatever, blah blah blah. This is again 2015, which is a very different time than now,
Mhm.
but the principle is still the same. I like needed money when I got offered this deal for these songs that I had recorded that I wanted to find a team to help me put out, and they were offering me money and to stand behind the songs that I was like excited about. I took the deal because I needed money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, but that what that taught me was also like there are things where, Katy Perry, Bruno Mars, name a musician who famously hasn't been dropped by a label. Bruno Mars, I think, is on his third or fourth label. I can't remember, but it's like you don't remember those stories, even though it's quintessential to the story of the music industry is that people get dropped. But you know, I took that journey as far as it could go to the point that it was, as we were approaching the pandemic, I could feel that everything was shifting, that like the internet was shifting, budgets were shifting. There was just like, it was sort of falling apart. And that's where, wonder was, I wonder if anyone will hear this, because I've got this song and I've got this story, but like I'm about to for sure lose the one pathway that I know how to share music.
Yeah.
But that was where, when the pandemic hit, when I was dropped, and when, call it universe, call it whatever you want, that like that Billie Eilish tweet was sent the same day, it was like it helped overshadow the sort of like loss I was feeling with the label. And interestingly enough, well, I'll get to that in a second, but it was like when she sent that tweet, it was like, okay, the one path that I know is gone, but like I could either fall to my knees and like be like, I'm done, which I think about all the time. But it was
Mhm.
also like, in that moment, the lyric is, I wonder if anyone will hear this. Like, will
Yeah.
I go broke trying to keep on? The lyric is not like, I know that people are going to hear this, or I know exactly how I'm going to make money doing it. It's just literally, I wonder if anyone will hear this. And I would, I always think about like, in 20 years, will I be happy that I did something, or will I be like, pissed at myself? I would be pissed at myself in 20 years if I didn't just put out that song, you know?
Right.
Now, at the time, this is 2020, my old label, they didn't have a deal with TikTok, so their music wasn't allowed on the platform. So I got on TikTok the day that Wonder came out, and there was a video from a teacher using my song in a video, which sounds like that's what happens, but this is like brand new to me. This teacher was like using Wonder, and she was like, I wonder if I'll be a good teacher for like my, for like the kids that are, of color or marginalized queer kids. Like, will I be a good teacher, through this pandemic? Will I be a good teacher while also being a good mother? Like, will I, all this stuff. And I, duetted it, being like, I hear you. Like, these questions are exactly what I'm talking about. And that basically just set off a chain reaction of the song, going viral on TikTok, and then going viral on Spotify, and, having all these moments, and then of course labels reaching out. Do you know what I mean? But
Yep.
it was like, I was not ready at that time to just like go back to being on a label. It was like, I also um, knew that like there are things that I want to do with the song, with like the upcoming music that I have now released. And I wasn't going to join a label at that moment and do what I was envisioning to do, which was like, I want to take Wonder, and I want to let it like touch as many people and have as many different versions as I possibly can, you know?
How do
There
you wind up on Jimmy Kimmel singing that song with Sarah Bareilles?
Well, because Sarah Bareilles heard the song and asked me to do a duet of it. And once Sarah Bareilles joined the song, Jimmy Kimmel, which I had played before,
Right.
they were immediately like, yeah, this will be the first television performance of that song.
It's
And
a fantastic performance. I watched that today. It's fucking great.
thank
You
you.
guys sound
You know,
amazing.
thank you, live, fully live.
Yeah.
Shot in Rockwood Music Hall, which is a venue in New York that is the first place that I played a full night of my original music in New York City.
Wow.
It's a tiny club, but they were still doing remote shootings during the pandemic, and Sarah was in New York, I was in LA. It was either like, I'm going to do Nashville where I'm from, or LA cuz I'm here, or New York because I can do it at the venue where, like, when I first played a show there, I'm gonna cry.
I love it.
I mean, I think like there are times that I just want to like give up, um, because I still don't know how to keep on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like back in 2009, when I played my first show with original music in New York City at Rockwood, there was no like, well, I'm going to do this if I can guarantee that in 12 years I'm going to play on television multiple times and I'm going to have millions of streams. It was just like, I love it and I want to get up on stage and I want to share it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So to do Wonder, which is, I wonder if anyone will hear this, at the venue that was the first place I ever even like uttered the courage to share an original song. That's what that moment means to me. You know,
Yeah.
I think in, you know, I'll never be great at social media, but I'll try to share my story in whatever way I can. And I'm learning, but it's like, even with that post recently on TikTok where it's like dropped and Billy tweets and then Sarah Bareilles joins and then millions of streams. And then I got offered a deal that feels so good. And I have taken it. It's like, because that's my story. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
And if my story can help it inspire others and inspire me to keep going, then I'm gonna just keep trying.
Yeah. It is really inspiring. And I don't think that you're, just for the record, I don't think that you're like any better or worse at social media than anybody else. People like nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. And
Wow.
like I think that you're doing just fine. Like, so when I said earlier, like, I don't think all musicians should have to know how to do it. I wasn't saying that to be like, it's fine that you're bad at it, Morgan, because I don't think that you're bad at it. I,
I am, but sure, I'll take it. I
I think
mean,
that you're just as good at it as I am. Like, I feel like the difference, I feel like I got lucky early on with a few hits, and now like there's people who like my style, but I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And oftentimes when I'm really proud of a video, it doesn't do well. And when I fart out a video in an afternoon, it like takes off, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what people want to see. But I think that you're doing great. But also like it's like mostly I just want artists like you to be able to succeed on the merits of the music. Like the music's so
yeah.
good and you're so good at what you do that it's like, does this person also have to be great at like making viral memes? Is that
I,
also what?
I mean, sometimes, I've had a lot of experiences this year. I'm also writing a ballet and performing it at the Nashville Ballet in
Tell me
February.
about that.
Well, that's something that it was a long time coming. I've been talking with the artistic director here for many years. Um, I was supposed to do a project May of 2020, and
Mhm.
we all know what that turned into. But the creator of it turned it into a ballet film. So I had this experience of writing songs for this ballet, but it turned into like a film, which is really cool. But I kept talking with the artistic director, and he shared this idea with me about like basically set in a graveyard and using stories from the past and also like unknown stories. There's so many stories of people that we don't get to hear because history doesn't tell them. So it's
Mhm.
like pulling these old stories and bringing them to life in a graveyard. And I just, that set my brain reeling, and I started writing music just based off his like talking about it. And that turned into like us collaborating on this ballet. So I say that just to be like, I have friends who are um, painters and principal ballet dancers and all this stuff, and like they're not like they're not on social media. And I think sometimes there's this really great post going around right now about like, does a song have to go viral for it to be like considered a success? The thing is,
Mm.
you don't know. Like I have this feeling that Wonder is about to have like a huge viral moment, even though it had one before, but like you never know what could happen with something. Um, it could get used in a film and all of a sudden like have a moment. So,
I mean,
for
Kate Bush, 35 years later, has the
I
number
mean,
one song in the world.
ugh, that
Yeah.
oh my god, I mean that scene is so good, and that's a perfect example of like of just make your art. Like just make it, play around on the internet, because to ignore the internet would be to is a little like, if you're interested in trying things out on the internet, like just try it out. Do you know what I mean? But like, um, play around with it. There's so much that could happen with music and with art. And the reason I bring up the ballet is because I just think that there's like other ways to reach people and to create things than just for TikTok or for, sort of like whatever platform you're thinking about. There's like art for art's sake.
I mean, yeah, I think that so like while I say all that stuff of like I don't want everyone, I think it's maybe not great that everyone is being funneled into this one way of marketing, that everyone needs to be good at making viral videos. At the same time, there is this other part of it that I talked about earlier and that we're sort of getting to, which is like this tool has never existed for artists ever before. And for the longest time, it was about like you had to be in one of the coastal cities or you had to be in a town where you could, like for actors, like I'm an actor, like people used to show up on studio lots and just wait around all day long to see if they could like get a job in the background of a movie. They would just wait around, and just be like, are there any jobs today for me to
Yeah.
pop on? Maybe I could say a line, maybe I could be a waiter. They would just like hang out around studio lots because that's what else are you supposed to do? Because all the jobs were going to people who knew people who were producing the movies already. So you were like, well, I just have to be in front of them. I have to be seen. There wasn't such thing as a place where you could go and film yourself doing something and be seen by regular people out in the world. And they could say, we like this person. And then producers could go, oh, well, people seem to like this person and their face and how they say things. And it's like, I have all these
Yeah.
friends that are such talented musicians that are touring all the time and they're doing it the traditional way of like they play shows, they make relationships with other musicians, they tour, and that sustains them. But I'm also like, man, like I know, and it's almost like the vibe is that it almost feels like they're like too cool for social media, or that they're just, or it's just the thing where they're like, I just don't get it. I don't know what I should do with it. But I'm like, if there is a way that we could find that works for you and your specific style to get you in front of people on the internet more, and maybe just film some like artfully done live recordings of some of your songs or something and like chop
Yeah.
those up into usable content for TikTok and Instagram, something that you can live with that's not cringy and that looks good and feels good. I like
Listen,
because
people would pay you lots of money if you helped them to figure that out. So if you're looking for a little side gig and you want to help
yeah.
musicians figure that out, people will pay you for that.
Well, here's the thing too, is it's so frustrating because like, as I'm sure you've run into or seen, like the high quality, artfully done content sometimes isn't the stuff that people want to see on
Yeah.
TikTok. Sometimes what people want to see on TikTok is you sitting in your car and going like, oh my God, this song I just made. And then like covering your mouth while you listen to it. And I'm like you said, I'm like, I could never, I can't do that video without making fun of that video. Like I can't
Oh
do
my
it
God.
seriously,
Lil Nas X did such a good like he was like, he basically was like, the next viral TikTok singer, like point of view, you're the next viral TikTok singer. And it was just like, it was like, twinkle, twinkle,
Yeah.
little bitch, it was like, yeah, because the nostalgia thing, but good for you. Like, good for you
Yeah.
that
Cause
is,
a lot of my musician friends who I think are like really, really talented, I'm like, if I were to make a video for you, it would be like a really artfully shot video of you sitting in like a stark space just playing your song, and we would just make it look really smooth and really good and really like pretty and classy and elegant and minimalistic, and just like strip it back and make it really simple. But TikTok would probably rather just see you in your room playing it straight into the phone with like worse audio quality. And I don't know why, but like
yeah.
that seems to be so, because it's like my artistic sensibility sometimes is a little bit offended by what does well on TikTok. Like like I said, the things that I'm most proud of, my music videos and stuff, and video, like videos where I'm like, I really spent a lot of time on this one. Like
But I
you know,
liked, to call to it. Like I really liked when you made a post with artfully shot, beautiful song and video, and then you made a like sort of DIY sort of like, this fucking sucks that like that didn't have reach, and then that got reach, which brought reach to the other thing. Like you like not to give away your secrets, but it is literally like that is using the medium, as Brian Eno says, using the cringe parts of the medium to actually become the signature, which is, it's at the end of the day, truly at the end of the day, I want to have a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I want to connect with people. I want to like meet other creators. I want to like connect with fans. I want reach. I want the music to reach and, you know,
Yeah,
and
through whichever means. Like, it doesn't really need to be in like a video that I'm like, I got the best DP for this. I got I got a great choreographer. It doesn't really, it's like, I just want people to hear the song. I just want people to connect with it. Yeah.
there's also like it's also like don't forget, and I've seen it for myself because even though TikTok wasn't a thing when Home was released, like the song Home did okay. And then when I released the music video a year later, it blew up because the music video
Yeah.
blew up online
Hmm.
on YouTube. So like don't forget that I have to remind myself this, to be honest. Like don't forget the magic of like anything could happen, truly.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like it might, of course everyone's talking about TikTok, but like don't forget that there's songs being synced in movies and TV. There's actual streaming action. There's uh you know some other creator using your song on an app, and you know what I mean. There's like a bunch of different ways that things can reach people. So I try to cut myself some slack when it's like that post that you've probably seen this week, where it's like if something doesn't reach, it's not because something is like everything is off the rails and wrong. It's just like keep it moving, like keep trying something else, and also know that the thing you're creating is the long game, and sometimes don't get so stuck in the short game.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Just keep moving forward. I feel like that's been a theme in the story that you shared, and it's definitely been a theme in my story so far, is just like, for better or worse, with ups and downs. I mean, you talked about being at a time where you're like, I'm just going on this Judge Judy show because I'm doing anything for cash. I lived that way for a long time, where I was like, I'll do anything just to make a couple $100 and keep myself afloat, keep myself moving forward.
Yeah.
And so much of the journey has just been continuing to move forward, even when it feels like, have I completely like gone all in on something that's just a lost cause? I saw so I wanted to call this episode Riding the Waves with Morgxn, because that video that you posted about being dropped in 2020 and sort of the up and down of like, oh, but then Billie Eilish tweeted, which by the way, when I listened to Home, I was like, oh, after hearing that, when that first bass comes in on Home, that's exactly, you're like, oh, I know exactly. Well, you got that rhythm, that dong, 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 like, and that's that bad guy, dong, 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 dong. I was like, she totally was influenced by your song. That's dope.
Yeah.
But it's really cool to hear those ties. But like this idea of riding the waves and the idea of like continuing to move forward and continuing to be patient. There's this producer that I follow on TikTok named Shane Lance, who always like gives tips to people in the industry and producing tips and things like that. And he made a video the other day where he was like, you might feel like you're too old to do something in the music industry. That's definitely something that I think exists in, what's that sound? Is that you?
Oh my god, is that my piano coming through you?
Yeah.
Oh, crazy. Because
Where
it's not
what?
coming through me. That's crazy. Wow.
Oh. I was
Amazing.
like, oh, I was hearing it. Um, but he was talking about how you might feel like you missed your shot. And as in the music industry, especially, it feels like after 25, you're like, well, that's it. Missed it. If I wasn't discovered by 21, like, and really, really by 25, then I
Well,
missed the
let
boat.
let me let me I'm sure you've seen, I think I went viral because American Idol called me to be like, "Would you come on the show? Would you audition?" This was a month or two ago.
Uh-huh.
And then they were like talking about my story, and they're like, "Wait, how old are you?" And I was like 35. And they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry. We cut off at 29." And I was like, do your research. Like, bye, get out of here. You know what I mean? And I am 35 and I just signed a record deal. So Tina Turner had her first hit in her 40s. So there's yeah, anyone wants to tell you that you're old, honestly, I can't wait for you to hear this new album because like I am so touching on that, and I'm so excited about not pretending I'm 22 and
Yep.
just, being like, yeah, at 35 I signed a record deal. Like, let's go. Let's change the whole game.
Yep. And there's something about just like embracing that too. Like some of my favorite bands that like I know make me an older guy because I'm still listening to this bands, but they're still putting out records and they're putting out what I think is like their best work. And I'm like, I know that I'm the only, I know that it's only me and the OG fans who are listening to this latest record, and that like the young kids aren't listening to the latest record by the Killers. Like I know that they're just not
Wow.
anymore. But like I think that
I love
Brandon
the
Flowers is
Killers.
like, it's one of my favorite bands. And I think Brandon Flowers is like doing some of his best songwriting in the last couple of years. And I love it because I'm just
I
like,
love Brandon Flowers. I
yeah,
mean,
I'm like,
you're,
why not? Why not put out your
I,
best record at 45? Like,
why not?
yeah,
Why not?
and I know that Gen Z's not listening to it, but that's okay. He's still selling out arenas. Like, it's fine,
I mean,
you
that's
know?
the other thing. Like, he is still selling out arenas. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's just like there's people out there, just keep making, if anything, for each other, just like keep making, keep connecting. Cause like it doesn't matter what age somebody says is the thing that's the limit. I'm sorry, American Idol. I'm not gonna be on your show, but like, great, I'll go be my own fucking person. Can I say that?
Yeah, I've said fuck so many times in this
Okay.
recording already. But like the thing that this guy said, this Shane Lance that I follow on TikTok, is he was like, uh, music industry, entertainment industry, whatever it is that you're doing, everything in life, it's like waves, and like you missed a wave. So that wave that you missed when you were 22, that opportunity that didn't come through, that like you missed that wave, or you missed the wave at 25, or you missed the wave at 26. Just wait, there's always another wave. And I think that that's been like that's been a theme, but also for me is just moving forward. It's like whatever setbacks I experience, whatever disappointments I experience, the thing that's kept my trajectory moving forward is just not leaving, is just like staying and just waiting and trusting that something else will come. And it really can be hard because sometimes it really feels like surely that's it. Like surely I've fully tapped every possibility and that's it, But I think as
No.
long as you continue to like be a hard worker and just stay and continue moving forward, you have to continue doing stuff. It's kind of like we talked about with LA, like being a lake. Like if you're just sitting in the lake and just holding still, nothing's going to happen. You have to continue moving. But as long as you keep doing that, and I definitely see that in your story, that you just are taking the lumps, taking the hits, letting American Idol go, oh, never mind, you don't make the cutoff, and going, okay, next thing.
Yeah. I wanted that story to be way more viral on TikTok because it was just like, this is absurd.
Yeah.
Like absurd. One Google, you would know my age, but like bye-bye.
Yeah.
You are the weakest link. Goodbye to
Yeah.
anyone that knows that reference.
Which that's also because we're old that we know that.
Yeah. Listen, I'm ready to embrace it, and I'm ready
Yeah.
to fiercely enter a new dimension of my life. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I'm not stopping. You're not stopping. You just keep going.
I think the best is yet to come for you. I think that like you've got a really cool story behind you, but it sounds like and it feels like you've got even cooler things coming up, and that's what I'm excited to watch and
Well,
excited to
thanks.
follow.
Thanks for having me. It's great to connect like this, and I can't wait to. I'm gonna invite you on my podcast so that I can just ask you questions about your journey.
Let's absolutely do it.
Okay.
Where can people follow you and keep up with you and keep up with the journey?
If you search Morgxn, Morgxn, you'll find me, but Morgxn Official on Instagram and TikTok. And then, yeah, just search Morgxn on any platform and you will find me.
And listen to some tunes.
Yeah.
After you're done listening to the podcast, go listen to some Morgxn songs. What's coming? Is there anything coming up that you're like, people got to know about this, people got to watch this, or people got to like, you got like a single coming out, or when's the
Yeah.
album? Is the album just in process?
Well, the album has just come out. Meridian is out, but I'm working on a new album. I've got a song with a band called Hembry coming out September 9th. We're playing a festival this week in Columbus.
Amazing.
But yeah, check out the song Float coming out September 9th, and then I'll be disappearing while I work on new music.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing. Morgxn, thanks so much for
Thank
making
you.
time for me.
Yeah, great to see you. Great to talk to you. And yeah,
Great to see
thanks.
you too, and like officially like talk as
Yeah,
people.
we're
Yeah.
friends. I love it.
Yep.
Talk
Wonderful
to you
talking with
later.
you. Okay. Bye
Bye.
bye.